I'm Jen Jackson. This year for Christmas, I'd like snow, but to ride my bike outside.
All right, what we just heard was Jen Jackson and a bit of a paradoxical or contradictory Christmas wish. Welcome, Dan, to the Canadian Cycling.
How's it going, Matt?
That's good. It's good. How are you?
You know, I missed one of the rare bonus riding days yesterday.
It was like rideable yesterday.
I know, like 10 degrees in the big smoke here.
And what did you do?
I ran.
Okay.
I was...
Already we're off to a terrible start. Okay, next.
To my defense...
There's no defense.
It was Santa-themed, and I think for the kids. But here's my beef with the running. It's not for my kids, it's for the kids.
Okay, for the
kids.
It's just looking out for the next generation.
So we're on this bike path or whatever.
Oh.
People are swerving all over the place. The hold your line concept does not seem to apply there.
Who are we talking about, runners or you?
The runners.
Okay.
Yeah.
That I'm still angry with you.
Even on the way back.
We're going to talk about cycling now.
Yeah.
We're done with your story.
Some kid took me out. I had to yell, hold my line. And then, you know what? I took him out at the finish line. No big deal, though. Okay, and we're back to the Canadian Cycling Magazine podcast, and we're done with Dan's forays into jogging. This episode, which has no more running, and that is actually really cool. We're going to talk with Raphaële Lemieux. You know who this is, don't you, Dan? I do. She may be Canada's coolest cyclist.
Whoa. We have so many cool cyclists, but she has been making a name for herself on the fixie racing scene.
Yeah, she's big in the Red Hook crit circles.
Well, this year she won the series overall, and she won in Brooklyn. So we're going to catch up with her and just how the season went, and we're going to talk a little bit about riding with no brakes and one gear. And then?
After that, we go to Spikes on Bikes.
Yes, and this is a very interesting project in Vancouver. It's a harm reduction program in the downtown east side, and there are people on bikes, like with naloxone kits, and just helping take some of the pressure or work on the opioid crisis in that part of the city.
Yeah, I love the feature in this issue of the magazine on this program, and it was great to get some more detail from the guys.
That's right. Well, I'll be talking with Tom Babin, who did the feature and spoke with the people behind Spikes on Bikes. And then?
It's back, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right, your favorite segment.
Full send, no send.
Yes, we've got hot topics to keep you warm in December.
Make sure your socks are on tight.
Because it may knock your socks off. That's right. All right, let's get into it. This past April, Montreal's Raphaële Lemieux won the Red Hook Crit in Brooklyn. This is a race done on a very technical course and with fixed gear bikes. There's no brakes, and sometimes there are spectacular mistakes. But Lemieux had a perfect race in April. In October, she was 6th at the Red Hook Series, its only other stop in Milan. And this allowed her to take the series overall. Now, Lemieux is a pretty interesting athlete. She, in the early 2000s, was a speed skater and a road cyclist. She retired. She gave up those disciplines completely, roughly 11 years ago. But in the past few years, she discovered fixed gear bikes and has been racing a lot in Montreal and abroad. And she also works full time. So I spoke with her about racing fixed and working and those crazy Red Hook races. Raphaële Lemieux, congratulations on your Red Hook Series championship title.
Thank you.
You took this title at the beginning, near the start of October. And what was it like winning the series overall?
Oh, it was a nice feeling. It was really my goal for this year. I worked pretty hard, and finally I have it. It's cool.
And you started the series off well this year, I'd say. You took the win in Brooklyn. How would you compare the two races, Milan versus Brooklyn?
Oh, it's funny. It's a little bit different. Milan, it's always different, I will say. The crowd is pretty much the same. It's amazing. It's a little bit less technical, I will say. It's I think was circle of 1.3 kilometer, but no hairpin. It's a big fast course, and it's at the end of the season. And a lot of new Italian girl from Pro Road Tour came to Milan to race the fixed gear. It's the end of the season for them, and they want to have fun. And I will set the packet a little bit different.
And how did that change your race and your tactics with those riders present?
The races came a really lot faster, and it's funny, but the sprint it's really more important because you cannot take advantage from the turn or the technical part. It's really faster than you can. The good positionment and the sprint are really important.
Mm-hmm. In these fixed gear races, sometimes when a rider gets a gap on another rider or on the pack, these gaps, I think, or I understand, are say more significant or more important than gaps in a traditional road race. Is that correct?
Yes, a little bit. I would say sometimes they are, and some race they are harder to get, and it's dependent. Like in Milan, I would say we have a nice Spanish girl attack with 3 laps to go, and she make a nice attack, and she have a gap at 5 seconds maybe, but 5 seconds and fixed gear it's pretty big. And it was funny because no Italian girl want to follow, no Italian girl want to work, and for me it was it's everything or nothing, and I take the decision to chase. But I pay a little bit because at the last corner the Italian passed me. I cannot have the legs to keep my position, but I'm still happy.
Nice. And so was it in that last corner that the final standing was decided, that you came in 6th place? Was that decided right at the finale there?
Yes, exactly. But it's funny because it was not at the last corner. It was the corner, I think the race at 8th corner, but the last 4 corner are really, really, really tight. Then it's funny, but you cannot really pass. If you are maybe the first or second, I don't think the third can pass. Then it's funny, but the last 4 corner is really decisive. Then you need to be in the first or second position for the last corner. If you're fourth, forget it. You cannot sprint to go to the first one.
It sounds very strategic.
Yeah, exactly. Then you need to know where is the good place to pass, because the opportunity, or you doesn't have a lot of opportunity. Yeah.
So what were some of your other highlights from this past season of racing?
I will say is the national crit in Chicoutimi. It was a big, not a big moment, but it was I think it was important for me. I just did the crit. It was in Chicoutimi, and it had a really big hill, and the girl was really strong. We start, I don't know, with the 60 girl, and finally we finished at 10, and it was really aggressive race. And I think it's wake up me and give me confidence in myself, because I was in the top 10, and I just realized that yes, I can raise some crit, I can go uphill too, and I was like, okay, it's good. I'm part of the national elite cyclist. And it can tell me too that I'm not just good on my local race at the Mardi La Chine, I can do real race. And that gives me a lot of confidence for the rest of the season. That was important, I think.
That's interesting that you say that, because you've ridden at a top level at the Red Hook series, but also I guess roughly 10 years ago you were racing road at the elite level. I believe it was on Team Rona. And
yeah, exactly.
So I just find it interesting that just this year you're taking confidence again, sort of returning to the road.
Yeah, it's true, but we don't need to forget that area I have 18 when I rode for Rona, and now I'm 35. I take a big 10-year off, maybe 12-year off. Then I did nothing, no competition at all. Then it's cool after, I would say, 12 year really, really off of competition. And now since it was my 3rd year, then I came back. Then I'm still on that level. It's pretty good too. And 35, I can compete with the young, really fast cyclists. It's cool, I find.
Definitely cool. And it's your 3rd year, I think you said, competing, but this is also I believe the 3rd year that you won Mardi Cycliste de la Chine overall. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. That was where I will set my first goal when I came back to cyclists to do. They have a really nice race every Thursday at La Chine, really close to Montreal in my city, and said, why not to be in shape for that race? That was the first step I will set to my cyclist.
Excellent. That's a race that has definitely been a springboard for many Canadian cyclists.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what's the Mardi Cycliste de la Chine is a geared race, but what's the fixie gear scene like in Montreal?
Oh, it's growing up a lot, I would say. They have more and more competition for the cyclists, the fifth gear race. And it's pretty cool. This year, for the first year, the Federation of Quebec joined us. They had the fixed gear community. And now the competition are with the Federation. And like I said, the community getting bigger, still have the same spirit, I would say. The fun is still the first objective, to have fun and push yourself. And we have a really great community.
Is that what you like most about the fixed gear racing? Is the fun, the element of fun?
Yes, I think it's the most important thing. And road or fixed gear, I think the sport, we're doing that because we like that, because it's fun. For myself, is the first important thing. If I doesn't have fun during the race, I will not do it. But yes, I think fixed gear, they are there to have fun. They have the beer is really important after. And I would say that everyone is there to enjoy, to be a little bit crazy, but sorry, I have a dog. But
the dog agrees, I think.
Yeah, exactly. To make the competition fun. Yeah, it's a big party, it's a big show, it's criterium, man. It's really fun. It's really short, and I think it's what is fun too. And the fixed gear, it's you don't need to be 6 hours on your bike. It's 1 hour max, and it's a really short, fast, powerful race. And my point is, I'm a worker. I work 40 hours a week, and I doesn't have time to train so much. And I think with the crit, it's like perfect. I think I can train 1 hour and a half, 2 hours, and it's enough. It's a fun training too. And I think it's what I would say. I really train to be a crit racer, and I think a lot of people are like me. Then they can fit the training to be a crit racer. And the week, I would say.
Mm-hmm. So it's easier to balance with your full-time job.
Exactly, yeah. And I think it's a lot of that too for the other cyclists. And they don't need to train for 6 hours every day. They can train. They train hard, but really shortly.
Mm-hmm. Now you work during the day as an optician.
Yep.
And do your coworkers know about your crit racing and your fixed gear racing?
Some yes, some no. It's a little bit funny. When I came to work, I'm all a cyclist and bring my bike inside, and after that I change. I put my mon veston. I don't know what is my fancy clothes. It's a little bit of two different words. Mm-hmm. Some know, some doesn't know.
And do they know you ride around with no brakes?
When I say that, they all tell me that I'm a little bit crazy.
Well, it's definitely more adventurous than some riders are willing to do, for sure.
Exactly. But at the same time, I said it's pretty. I was a short track speed skater, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little bit the same thing. In short track, you doesn't have break, and you're really close to the other people in the corner. You need to lead. I find it pretty similar, and I like to race too. It's fun to challenge yourself around people.
Are there any skills that you gained from being a short track speed skater? You're pretty. You raced at a very high level in that discipline. But are there any skills that maybe come over from the ice onto the road?
I will say a lot. Yes, the technical, the leaning, to don't be afraid to take the corner really fast and to lean in the corner. But I will say the powerful too. Then I know to train to be powerful, I will say. It was funny because I quit a little bit speed skater because I didn't enough. I was not enough good for the sprint, for the start. And it's super funny because now in cyclist, I'm a sprinter. It's two different words, yeah. But it shows how it's two different words. But then same time, I was training really to be powerful. And now it was my illness. I don't know, faiblesse in English. I don't know.
Weakness.
It was weakness.
Yeah.
And now when I'm training, I'm always thinking to that. Then let's go do powerful. And when I think I'm used to doing squat and a lot of weight. And when I'm go cyclist, I don't go just for the 6 hours, like I said. I have a lot of short interval. And I think I take my background of training, some training from speed skating, and I know I was a cyclist, and I know what it is to have to have training for cyclists. And I think I mixed the two together, and I think it's a good mix.
I think so. It seems to be paying dividends.
Exactly.
Does fixed gear racing or just fixed gear bikes do they have a role in developing new riders?
I think so too. Then I think they bring fixed gear. Yes, it's about the sport. It's the community. It's about art too. I think it's interesting. We see at Milan, and the bike are just crazy. It's super artistic, and I think they bring the street people to say, "Oh, a bike, it's cool," and what is fun too, then a fixed gear bike is not really expensive. It's, I think with 1,000 you have a really nice bike, and you can compete with that, and you can be not proud of your bike, but I like your bike, and the mechanic is really simple, don't cost a lot, and I think it's I find it's really a good first step. And I hear a lot of people who never do bike and said, "Oh, fixed gear looks so cool. I buy a bike, and now I'm here to try to do some race." I think it's really a nice first step. Yes.
Interesting. What are your plans for the off season?
Take off. Yeah, no
sure.
kidding. I really enjoyed my my months off. I think during the season we doesn't have a lot of time to go out to enjoy your family. I would say to take supper, to have good time with your friend. That would be the important thing during my months off. And it's fall, huh? It's super nice for mountain bike and BMX. I think I will do a little bit more mountain bike, BMX, to chill a little bit with my dog and to take relax, I would say, and fun.
That sounds like an excellent postseason. Still a bit active, but enjoying it.
Exactly, yeah.
And have you thought about next year and any plans there?
Oh, I need to take a month off before I think for the next year. But I think I have a really nice balance right now with my work, my training, to have fun and to enjoy to be in the race. And I think I will plan to do pretty much exactly the same thing than this year. Then I really have fun on my bike, like I said, and training in natural. Then yes, I think I will hope then Red Oak will have 4 races next year. We'll see. It's really emergent sport, extreme sport. It's still pretty new. Then we never know if we'll still have some or no. I know it's pretty popular in Europe. They have a lot of competition, but in Canada and US, it's still pretty small. Yes, it's getting better in Quebec, but it's still a small community. I think we need to see a little bit what will happen. I hope then Specialized Rocket Espresso will still be there next year. We'll see a little bit, but I think I find a nice balance, and I hope I will do exactly the same next year.
Excellent. Well, I hope so too. It'll be fun to keep track of your progress again next year.
Cool.
Raphaële Lemieux, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Raphaële Lemieux from Montreal races for Specialized Rocket Espresso in fixed gear races. This year, she won the Red Hook Crit Series overall.
All right, you ready? 1, 2, 3, 6 minutes, go.
Okay, for full send, no send, the timer is going.
Enforcing fenders on your group ride, Matthew.
I'm all for fenders. I do not like the Belgian toothpaste in my teeth.
No grit in the gums.
No, I could go without it. And, you know, it's really just an etiquette thing. And if it's a sloppy winter ride, you should have something to keep that muck down.
So is that a full send or is it a no send?
Full send.
You know what? No send. If you don't like it, go ride on the front. You're not going to get any grit in your teeth.
Wow. HTFU and get all gritty, says you.
Exactly. Plus, you got that sweet bike. It looks bad. All right.
Okay, next.
Moving on. The UCI, in their ever-growing wisdom, says the socks for next year must not exceed the middle area between the fibula head and the lateral malleolus.
I don't know what you're saying, but my understanding of this rule is between the ankle and the knee. That's where the top of the sock.
Somebody paid attention in science class.
No, I looked at the pictures that the UCI helpfully provided. What's the problem with this?
I think it's sock fascism.
Oh my gosh. It's just equipment. Like everything else is regulated from like this saddle angle. It's like, this is equipment, dude.
Can
if
we
you
not get
want
something better than like the iPad motor tester, and then we have to spend our energy on...
This has absolutely zero impact in your life.
You think it does? But just wait till there's a commissary in your M3 race who comes and measures your socks. And then you'll be cursing the UCI. It might start in Switzerland, but it's going to come to Bowmanville.
It's going to come to St. Catharines.
No send.
Well, if it's... I was... Now I've been alerted to the dangers. Okay, get rid of it. Yes.
All right. Opened up my inbox this morning.
Yes.
Get a lot of emails from Rafa. I'm sure everybody does. You know what they started off with?
What?
The Festive 500.
Don't you like festive things? Are you humbugging already?
I'm humbugging. It's one thing for them in England to say, oh, tough it out, ride in the winter.
You're so provincial.
It might be 4 degrees. There might be some rain. You know what? Try and do a Festive 500 in Saskatoon, in Regina, in Brandon. Then I'll be impressed.
So you're feeling geographically hindered and left out on behalf of your fellow Canadians.
Yeah, they are. It's not inclusive, and I'm not going to stand for it.
Oh my gosh.
They need to have an indoor virtual Festive 500 for us.
Oh boy, here we go again. We're going to get all virtual on this. Is there an equivalent of pleading the fifth on this? It's like, I just so don't care. You want to get all Festive 500? Get Festive 500. If you
I'm just saying they're not allowing us to get Festive 500 with
They're not thinking about that you need snowshoes or fat bikes. Like, get a fat bike. Get a fat bike.
There should be like a conversion for the fat bike, like pounds to dollars. You know, you're out there with your family getting some fat bike on. You know, that's got to be at least a 2-to-1 conversion rate. No send, Rafa.
Okay. Thank you. This is exact math. This is new math.
It's new money. It's metric. All right. Velocio, the New England-based clothing brand, has come out with a indoor range.
Right.
Full send, no send.
So let me just unpack this. For your indoor rides, they have equipment for you, like indoor shorts.
The men's ultralight indoor short.
What makes them indoor?
Excellent question. I guess it's light.
It's light, so like a summer short.
It's like a summer short, but not.
But
and you'll never see the sun in it.
But you could. Oh, so you can save money maybe because it doesn't need any UV protection or whatever.
Possibly.
Okay.
This is absurd.
It's absurd because it's bib short. No, they're just shorts.
Just shorts, not bibs.
For riding inside.
Yes.
So the old pair that you don't like to wear outside anymore
not good enough.
Is not good enough for riding your trainer inside. What about my old T-shirt that I put on?
Oh no, they have the men's or women's radiator indoor tank.
Indoor tank. That sounds a bit try. I mean, you're shrugging your
shoulders. I'm shrugging my shoulders on the podcast. I hope that
this is very Sean Kelly.
My disdain was audible enough to come through.
That dead air spoke volumes, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, we're getting a time check of 1 minute.
What's your verdict?
My verdict is no send. Come on. I'm in my basement sweating. I can wear whatever I want.
I can wear what I want.
That's right. And my socks, UCI, can be as long as they want. Is that Zwift doping if I wear high socks?
Oh, like I said, it starts in Switzerland, but it comes to your basement.
I just don't know anymore. We have one more. Very recently, Paul Sherwin passed away. He's been the voice of the Tour de France and for a generation. You want to give him one big full send?
Yeah, this is the final full send for Mr. Sherwin, for Paul and Phil as a duo. I think everyone who grew up watching cycling in North America knew them. For me, my everlasting memory will be him calling the look when Lance looks back at Jan and then just pedals away on to win one of his 7 Grand Tours.
Maybe 7.
Maybe 7, depending on how ASO feels. But Paul, here's one full send for you.
Big full send for Paul Sherwin. And that's time. I think we're getting better at this.
Kept it tight.
Vancouver's downtown east side is an area that's been associated with poverty and drug addiction for many years. Roughly 2 years ago, North America's opioid crisis hit the downtown east side hard. In response to the crisis, to the overdoses and the growing number of needles in parks, the PHS Community Services Society created Spikes on Bikes. This past summer, writer Tom Babin went to Vancouver to learn more about how Spikes on Bikes is helping those in need in the downtown east side. Tom Babin, welcome to the Canadian Cycling Magazine podcast.
Thanks for having me, Matthew.
In the current edition of Canadian Cycling Magazine, you have a feature story about Spikes on Bikes in Vancouver. Tell us about the Spikes on Bikes program.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting program. So it works on the downtown east side, and it got started a couple of years ago, really when the opioid crisis really hit the streets. And it was the motivation behind it was a practical one. You know, the PHS, the organization behind it, was doing a lot of work on the streets. They do a lot of work to ensure safety among drug users. They've got a little dispensary window where they hand out clean needles and that kind of thing. But as the crisis unfolded, they were getting more and more calls, and they're finding it harder and harder to keep up on things. So really, they just needed an easy way to get around the streets more quickly and more efficiently, you know, to respond to things like dirty needle sites and quick responses to people in need. And you know, the city was in the middle of a boom on bikes, and a lot of the people who were working there were using their bikes to get around all of the time. So they thought, well, hey, let's try using a bicycle to get our people out there more efficiently. So they got a few old bikes, fixed them up, put some baskets on them, and loaded them up with health reduction paraphernalia, I guess you could say, clean needles and literature and that kind of thing. And they sent their people out on the bikes, and they quickly found that not only was it a really good way of getting people around, but the bike itself helped in their mission in some interesting ways. So it really was a practical thing that led to this program in the first place.
I want to get to those the ways that the bike helped in other ways, but first, just to give us a picture of the timeline, this was in late 2016 that the program launched, I think?
Yeah, that's right. It was just, you know, the sort of what they like to call, not like to call, but what is being called the opioid crisis. And everyone I talk to says, yes, it's a crisis, kind of kicked off right around that time. And the numbers are crazy. Like the number of OD calls on the downtown east side went from something like 49 a month up to more than 250 a month just within a matter of weeks. Like it really hit really hard, really quickly. And so, the Spikes on Bikes started in response to that.
Now, you connected with this organization earlier this year to write the story for the magazine. That's where it kind of started. How easy was it to make that connection, or how difficult was it to make that connection with the Spikes on Bikes organization?
Yeah, well, we heard about the program, and it just seemed like an interesting thing to learn more about. But it was tough to get things going. I mean, PHS is an organization that's really close to the street. They're literally down there, on West Hastings, helping people out every day. They do a lot of work with what they call peers, which means people who are not far from the street themselves. Some of them are homeless. Some of them are working on have drug issues themselves, and so getting through was a bit tricky. But when they heard from us, they were keen. They want to spread the word about this program because they want support, and they know it's successful, and it's a good story for them to be telling, and a good story for the wider community to hear too, because there is really good harm reduction work going on down there. But they're a bit reluctant to have me on board as a reporter, watching along. And at first I thought it was, they're worried about privacy, about their clients and that kind of thing, which is totally understandable. But, as I pushed them a bit more to take part, they're worried more about me, witnessing what they see every day. It can be a very traumatic experience for people who are not used to that kind of thing. And they thought sending a reporter out there, might be a traumatic experience for me. And I ended up spending some time down there too, and I totally understand what they meant by that. And it really was amazing to me. I mean, I was there during the day, and things were pretty calm, and they were kept me pretty sheltered. But it really gave me a new appreciation for what is going on down there every day and what people are dealing with. And it's pretty shocking if you don't see it. I know lots of people who visited Vancouver understand that area, or at least they know what it looks like. But to get down there was really eye-opening for me in a lot of ways. Like the seriousness of it really struck me, but also other things too, like the sense of community that's down there, and the warmth of the people and the passion of the people who are helping out their neighbors. It was really an interesting, eye-opening experience for me as a reporter on this.
Now, one of your original ideas was to go on a ride-along with some of the peers, and they shot that down almost right away, I believe. What was their concern? And didn't they say something like they were worried you'd have or get PTSD?
Well, yeah, they're worried about me experiencing this traumatic event, and I think maybe they've had this experience before where it can be very disturbing. For some people to see these kinds of things, so they're a bit worried about me, which was, very thoughtful of them. I was grateful for that. So I took them at their word, and I didn't end up doing a ride along with them during the night, but I got down there and they showed me the program, and I met some of the peers they work with too. But it really was just it shows you how important the work is, I guess, and like how difficult the conditions are down there. Like there's some heartbreaking things happening every day, and it's a real crisis, and it often gets neglected. I think it gets swept under the rug a bit. I think we've learned to sort of tune out of what's really going on in these situations. So I should say too, there's a concern. I think this is a concern from a lot of people who are working down in that area, is that the whole community gets sort of painted with the same brush. It's the downtown east side is sort of seen as the place in Canada where the drug problems are so prevalent, and I don't think that's accurate. I mean, the area has struggles, obviously, but to think that the opioid crisis is only with people living there is just not accurate. We know it's happening in the suburbs and in the downtown office towers, and it's affecting everybody too. So, that neighborhood gets a lot of bad press, and there's a lot of problems down there, absolutely, but there's a lot of good work and a real sense of community that belongs there as well. So it's a little difficult for organizations to, get the media down there and sort of tell the story in a way that, they feel it should be fairly told.
So you went to the downtown east side, and you went to the PHS Community Services Society office. Now, this is the organization that Spikes on Bikes grew out of. Can you describe what the offices are like and where they are, actually?
Yeah, well, it's in an alleyway right off Hastings Street on the downtown east side. You turn down the alley, and it's if anyone who's seen pictures from that area probably knows the image. It's the alley is full of people, and there's lots of there's people sleeping on the street. And when I was walking down there, we passed a couple of women who were laying out a blanket on the sidewalk filled with goods that may or may not have come from a convenience store nearby. They're selling them, trying to make money. Things like unrefrigerated packets of chicken were on the street. It's just people trying to make a living, or not even make a living, just trying to get a little bit of money so they can get through the day, really. So that's what you see on Hastings Street, and you turn left and you go down this back alley, and there's just a little dispensary window on one of the buildings, and we went inside, and it's a tight little office, but it's crammed floor to ceiling with medical supplies and clean needles, and there's people coming and going, and it's the people who work there are really interesting, a real mix of social workers and healthcare advocates, and people who are there trying to get the programs to run, mixed in with peers. So it's other people who are from the street, who have the real connections to the people in the neighborhood, who are there helping out, and everyone. It kind of runs like this little beehive of activity. When I was there, people were coming and going, and everyone was on a first name basis, and like a real interesting mix of people. But everyone I spoke to had almost the same vocabulary for describing their work down there and the community and what they need and what the problems they're facing are and that sort of thing. So it was pretty interesting to see.
Can you tell me more about that common vocabulary?
Yeah, I mean, it's everyone I met it was really passionate about helping people, but also getting over the stigma of the neighborhood. And when you get down to it, they speak very passionately about that the neighborhood is full of people who are hurting, and I think we've gotten away from this a bit in Canada, but there still is a stigma attached to drug use, especially down there. It's often looked at as a law enforcement problem, but the people at PHS really see it as a health problem. What they see, I think, is a lot of people who are in need of help. It's people who have all kinds of diverse backgrounds, come from all over the place, but all are in need of not just medical help, but some support to get back on their feet. And what I found really interesting was a lot of the work that they spoke about was in terms of things like self-worth and self-confidence, and the stigma around that, they felt in some ways, I think, really perpetuates the problem. Where if you're in that lifestyle and you're trying to get out of it, to be viewed at by the larger society as one of those people who are in the downtown east side, I think really damages somebody. I think that if you internalize it, it really hurts your self-worth, which makes it really difficult to get out of the situation you're into. I think there's a lot of people who really want to get healthy and get better, and there's lots of people there to help. But getting over that stigma that's attached to them is really a huge hurdle in a lot of cases too. So I think, that's why I'm very careful about the words they choose and the message that gets out, and they're, sensitive around nosy reporters like me, because, overcoming that stigma is a real challenge, but also something where they see a lot of potential for growth in the future.
One of the phrases that came out of your story and your visit was radical acceptance. Why is that term important?
Yeah, this was really interesting to me. So when I was asking some of the workers there, about the programming, they talk a lot about working with peers. So Spikes on Bikes is one of the programs that is almost completely run by peers. So, they've got shifts going out all night long, groups of 2 people on bikes going out, really just looking through the neighborhood for people to help. They're looking for people who are passed out in the street. If they're ODing, they know how to give naloxone and call 911. So that happens a lot. And there's ODs almost every shift that they deal with, which was shocking to me as well. But they're also talking to people, giving advice on where to get free meals, or where they can get some housing, or offering support and services, just really out there trying to help in as many ways as they can. But when you're dealing with a program like that run by peers, it can be difficult, I think. I mean, we're talking about people who are not far from the street themselves, some of them still living on the street, some of them are still dealing with drug problems on themselves. I met one guy named Randy Pandora, who is a really interesting guy. He's lived down there for 15 years. He called himself an occasional drug user himself, really articulate, really smart guy. And he was down there working with them all the day. But the term radical acceptance came up when I was asking about the logistics of doing this. I mean, how do you plan a trip, or how do you plan a shift for people when maybe you've got some people who aren't going to show up every day, or maybe take a few days because they're having a drug binge themselves, or they're get caught up in something themselves. And what all the workers there told me was like, they know that's just the life they live in. And when they talk about radical acceptance, what they mean is they're there, if they really want to help these people, they need to be accepting of everything. And that meant, if someone doesn't show up for work one day, you need to be accepting and understanding of that. If they disappear for weeks at a time and then come back, you accept them back into it because you need to give them a chance. And I think that's really tough for some people to get used to. I think it's tough for some of the people who work there. They told me that it took them a long time to get used to this idea. But there's so much benefit from using peers, not just for the people they help, but for the peers themselves, that they found that this is the method that works best. And I found it really interesting that the program seemed to help the peers working it as much as the people they were out there helping. The program gave a lot of the peers a purpose. It gave them a sense of helping, a sense of community. They really felt passionate about it, and they had all these great, inspiring stories about people who, started as a peer in the program, and over time, maybe they almost washed out a couple of times. They came back. They had problems. Drug addiction is a difficult thing, and people relapse. That's just the way it works. So that's just what happens. But by having this attitude of radical acceptance, it really gave people a chance to come back and mess up and try again and try again and try again. And they had these great, inspiring stories of people who came through the program, made it through. We're living in an apartment in Vancouver now, and had started their own programs, and we're doing great work. So, it was really cool to see and to think about, as almost like as an employer, being able to accept the people you're working with, no matter what happens, was really an interesting concept for me.
I find that interesting because it almost sounds like there's an upward spiral instead of a downward spiral. There's these peers who are out there doing like really like on the ground, practical, life-saving work. They have their naloxone kits and they're often saving people from overdoses, but yet the peers themselves are getting, I don't know if this is too loaded a term, but a bit of rehab themselves, and they're helping, they're being helped as well, as you pointed out.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of came the focus of my story, and which was a surprise to me. I thought I would go in there writing about all the people that are being helped, but what struck me was how much the program is helping everyone who's involved in it. And someone like Randy Pandora, who I spoke with, was I found him really inspiring. As we walked down the street together, he was saying hello to people he knows. That was really his community. He told this really heartbreaking sort of story in some ways about how he was one of the first shifts he was out on Spikes on Bikes. He came across a couple of dumpsters, and between them he saw a pair of legs sticking out. And so he pedaled over there, worried that somebody was overdosing, and sort of got up to him and realized, yes, this person was overdosing. And then when he took a closer look, it was a friend of his. It was someone he had known for years and years. So, that must be a horrifying thought for somebody, if you see your friend in a state and, really close to death, I would think. And, what he said was, he did his job. He administered the naloxone, and the heartwarming part came afterwards when, the guy he was helping sort of sat straight up and gave him a big smile and said, thank you. Like, he had such gratitude for Randy for helping out in this situation too, that I think that's kind of lost as well. I think there really is, that sense of community and the gratitude that comes with that sort of thing with the people who are helping out as well. So I think that sort of anecdote really spelled out the need and the risks, and so the sense of gratitude that comes along with the Spikes on Bikes program.
So you've discussed how the program helps people, both the peers and the people that the peers are helping. But what other advantages do bikes have in this scenario on the downtown east side? Maybe from a logistical or practical purpose. Why are they better than cars or even walking?
Bikes are great. On one level, they're great in cities for all the same reasons that I like riding them too. Is in a dense urban city like Vancouver, getting a short distance is much faster on a bike than it is in a car. But Vancouver is slowly turning into a bike city itself. I mean, they've done a great job with their bike infrastructure, and it's really been embraced by the people. So their bikes are everywhere anyway. And so, on a practical basis, it's just easier to take your bike from place to place, especially if you're going down back alleys and that kind of thing around the neighborhood, than it is to sort of drive a van and park it and then unload the van with all your gear and that kind of stuff. So I think that's really cool. And that's, the same reason bikes are doing so well in cities all over the world. They're just a practical urban, transportation mode. But what was interesting, I think that surprised even the people involved in the Spikes on Bikes program, was that the bike itself seemed to become a message in a weird way. Randy told me when he's out on his bike, people just come up and ask him about it. It's almost like a common interest for a lot of people. A bike is much more approachable, I think, than like an institutional vehicle. If it, whether it be a police car or an ambulance or even like a logoed, panel van, that comes with some baggage, I think, especially for people who live down there. But the bike doesn't have any of that stuff. It's just an easy thing. Randy said it's a conversation starter. It's easy. It's almost nobody has a negative impression of bikes, in their practical way in their lives. It's got a sense of whimsy and people think of their childhood about it and they think of the fun that comes on a bike. So all of these things came with the bike that they didn't even expect it to happen. So I think now what's happened is people see a bike rolling up and with the peers wearing their vest, and they know that this is something that's helpful and friendly, and the bike just sort of carries that message of friendliness and helpfulness along with it too. And I just don't think you can get that with some other modes of transportation. So it was a nice surprise for them too, and I think it gets people on people thinking about bikes in a new way. It can't be a bad thing either.
And what are the bikes like? What kind of bikes are they riding?
Oh, I think whatever they can get their hands on, really. They're mostly, 10-year-old mountain bikes that they've done a basic tune-up to, put a basket on the front. Sometimes there is a rack at the back, just a practical thing. We're not talking about a program with a lot of money here, so they're doing what they can with what they've got. So, getting bikes fixed up is another program that is cool. We see this in lots of cities, like with earn a bike programs and community bike shops, where you get people in there fixing machines up and getting them rolling again. That could be a nice community thing as well. So they're just using whatever they can get their hands on and whatever will work and whatever's reliable for them too. So, I saw a lot of mountain bikes that looks like the kind I rode about 10 years ago. So whatever they can get their hands on, I think, is what works.
Yeah, the bike there's such durable machines that, they can take a beating, and then with a bit of fixing up, they can be put back into service.
Yeah, and not have to worry about taking it to the shop or getting oil changes and that kind of thing. Most people, can fix little minor things themselves. So it just makes a lot of sense in that context.
Now, does this program face any challenges, I would say, beyond the harm reduction work Spikes on Bikes does out on the street? Does it face any other sort of challenges from day to day, or to be able to bring its services out there?
Well, I think funding for any program like this is always a problem. I think they would love to have more money. They would give them some more certainty. They could roll more people out on bikes. They pay the peers who are involved in the program, but I think they would always love to pay them more. Getting enough money to pay them a living wage for doing this important work, I think, would be one of their goals. They would love to do that. I don't think anyone feels good about that. I think everyone would like them to see them being paid more. So I think if anything, funding's a problem. And, there are bigger philosophical problems, not just around this program, but around harm reduction and policing and all that sort of thing. These are bigger societal questions about how we treat drug use and drug addiction, in our society. So, I think there's a lot of, I don't want to say frustration, but there's a lot of concern about, like we've talked about earlier, like the stigma attached to this kind of thing. And I think for all the people who are working down there, they would love to see like a change in attitudes toward not just the downtown east side, but drug use and opioid use in general. I think that would, ease their minds a lot, and I think it would help them get to where they'd like to go when it comes to their harm reduction strategies.
Now, after spending time at the downtown east side and writing and thinking deeply about Spikes on Bikes, what do you think is next for the program, or where do you think it's going from here?
I think it's, I think they hope to expand it. I think being a little more mobile is good. I think they would love for other cities to look at that model, and they've had such success with it that I think, they could deal with it in other big cities in Canada that have similar problems too. I don't think they have huge plans for, we're not talking about a big branded, corporate initiative here. This is like a community-based program. But I think whenever something works, we want it to spread through all of those communities. And, this is an easy one. It's easy to get off the ground. It has great benefits for the people working and for the people they're serving. So I think, if someone in another city was to pick this up, I think they'd feel really happy about that.
Tom Babin, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
Tom Babin is a contributor to Canadian Cycling Magazine. He's the author of Frostbike, The Joy, Pain, and Numbness of Winter Cycling. He lives in Calgary, where he blogs about bikes at shifter.info. And that's the episode. It was put together by Dan Walker, Philippe Tremblay, me, Matthew Piaro, and it was produced by Adam Killick.
And if you want more from Canadian Cycling Magazine, follow us on Instagram at Canadian Cycling. That's at Twitter, at Canadian Cycling on Twitter. For Facebook, it's at Canadian. Oh, no. On Facebook, it's at Cycling Mag.
Just to keep you on your toes.
Keep things funky. If you want to listen to us, it's iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, and Intune where you can find us. You know what you should do there? You should download, you should tell a friend, rate and review, but
please give us 5 stars. That helps us a lot.
And only write something nice. And if you want to write in for a full send, no send, we always appreciate user submissions. So it's podcast@cyclingmagazine.ca.
Yeah. Send us your topics and we'll maybe debate them and just fully send them or just no send at all. We'll see. For all kinds of cycling news and reviews, go to cyclingmagazine.ca. And as always, we thank the Ontario Media Development Corporation for its support. See you next time.